Real quick before this video begins, I just wanted to say thank you all for being very patient with me as I've been learning a new editing style to make this video the best it can be. This is not the full video. This is only the first portion. This is what I have. This is just my way of giving back to you guys who have been very patient with me. Once the entire video is ready, this version of the video will go down and be re-uploaded as the full thing whenever I'm able to get to that. Just know it's gonna take a while. That being said, this is still a very important occasion, so let me do one more thing. You guys have no idea how long I've been waiting to do this. Please enjoy Ash vs. Leon, Part 1. Part 1. In the aftermath of the darkest day, the Galar region is to take some time to handle the damage done. The World Championships is postponed for the time being. However, with the world anticipating the battle between the World Champion and the trainer who not only rose in the ranks, but also helped save Galar from Eternatus, it would be a crime to fully cancel the season. So in the time between, Ash and company head back to Pallet Town, taking this time to plan and get Ash's Pokemon ready for their most important battle. The team slowly falls into place, as Ash thinks carefully about who would be best for facing Leon. First off, Pikachu was an obvious choice. Ash knew he was going to use Pikachu to fight Leon ever since they first met the champ. Even with Pikachu fighting Eternatus, the Electric Mouse was still raring to go for this next fight. The next two Ash decides on pretty quickly. Finding the two sparring alongside Swampert, Darmanitan, and Kleavor, Ash offers two spots to the duo who have the strongest connection with him, Greninja and Lucario. The two give a nod of agreement, and so, they're both added to the roster. His next choice doesn't take him long either, finding the next member having some fun with Totodile, Oshawott, and Donphan. Having been able to win Ash the Alola League in the past, Ash asks if Lycanroc would be willing to assist him in beating Leon. With a proud and excited bark, Lycanroc accepts the invite, 4 Pokemon down, and Ash starts to have a little trouble deciding his next team member. He considers asking Gengar, when Rillaboom approaches him. Clearly hailing from Galar himself, Rillaboom wanted to face the strongest trainer from his home. Ash asks if Rillaboom is sure he's already up for another fight. But despite having a tough battle against Giovanni not too long ago, Rillaboom is adamant about being able to face Leon. Ash smiles, agreeing to allow Rillaboom onto the team. For the final team member, Ash decides he'll select from his fire types. He finds his fire types, as well as Gengar, all watching as Incineroar and Emboar are locked in a fierce wrestling match. When mentioning the battle against Leon, two of Ash's fire types stick out the most: Infernape and Charizard. Both clearly want the chance to face Leon's Charizard, and both are very passionate about the opportunity. They stare daggers at each other, wanting to be the one to potentially face the strongest in the world. It's then decided that the only way for them to settle this is with a battle. Charizard and Infernape fight fiercely, their fiery spirit able to be felt throughout Oak's Corral. They clash with all their might, not willing to lose this heated battle. Mach Punch and Breaking Swipe, Flamethrower and Fire Punch, Hurricane and Flare Blitz. Moves collide, with all their power being put into every single hit. Eventually, Infernape activates Blaze and gets ready to strike with a final Flare Blitz. However, Charizard grabs Infernape through the fire of its attack and ends things with a burning Seismic Toss. Infernape looks up at Charizard and smiles before admitting defeat to the Flame Pokemon. Ash's final team member is Charizard. For the days before the tournament finals, Ash and his Pokemon train. They work harder than ever before, with some of Ash's friends even aiding in the training process. Each one of Ash's Pokemon gives it their all, until the day finally arrives. Ash and his hand-picked team look across Oak's Corral to the Pokemon who battled alongside them all these years. This is it. All of their battling had led them to this very fight. They promised to defeat Leon and become the strongest in the world. With that, Ash takes his leave for the Galar region once again. His friends and family along for the ride, ready to witness this battle for the ages. Beneath Hammerlock Stadium, a lab coat wearing Sonia and a team of scientists are hard at work. Schematics and energy readings cover any nearby screen. Professor Magnolia enters the room and asks her granddaughter how the lab coat feels. Sonia says it's surprisingly a little big on her, to which Professor Magnolia smiles before assuring that she'll grow into it. One of the scientists then gets Sonia's attention, referring to her as Professor Sonia. They reveal the news that the radiation of Galar particles was beginning to increase. Sonia's eyes widen with delight, before she orders one of the scientists to contact Champion Leon. If Eternatus is waking back up, then the best person they could use to try their plan would be him. One of the scientists notes that Gym Leader Raihan is upstairs, but Sonia is adamant on it having to be Leon, as he's the one who's actually encountered Eternatus up close. Magnolia asks if she's sure this will work, to which Sonia says that it has to. The International Police had already helped them find any and all documentation of Rose's work. While his exact methods were terrible and blinded by his unhealthily processed mental health issues, his data was still sound. The more Galar continued to expand and increase the use of Galar particles through things like Dynamaxing, the sooner those resources would run dry and lead to a new Dark Age for the entire region. His estimation of it being 1,000 years away was the best case scenario. The worst case was that it would take place far sooner. Not just in her own lifetime, but Magnolia's as well. Magnolia sighs, saying that she feared a possibility like that could be the case. As much as Rose's decision to use Eternatus in a torturous way, stealing the legend plate from its resting place in Sinnoh, and going as far as associating himself with both Team Rocket and Team Galactic, his reason for doing so had some virtue. Sonia nods, stating that unfortunately Rose was also helping make the problem worse at the same time. With him pushing Leon to become the very best, he went a little too far. Leon's popularity in Galar alone was enough to bring in hundreds of thousands to participate in the gym challenge, increasing the use of Galar particles. Once he hit the world stage and became champion, readings spiked in viewers of the PWC, in participants, and in Galar particle usage. If only they had known sooner. At least the Darkest Day, and more importantly the defeat of Eternatus, did increase the amount of Galar particles within the region. Still, if they wanted to prevent an energy crisis, they would need Eternatus' help. Magnolia acknowledges that Sonia herself knew Rose's methods were wrong, to which Sonia agrees, but states that's why she needs Leon's help. What they need to do is work on cohabitation with Eternatus. If they can get Eternatus to trust humans, then they should be able to convince it to help the region. As if on cue, Professor Sonia is informed that Leon has arrived. She's about to depart, when Magnolia stops her one last time. Does Leon know any of this? Sonia shakes her head, exclaiming that if Leon knew his champion titles were inadvertently causing harm to the region, then he may stop battling entirely. She wants to at least wait until after tomorrow. After something like this, the people of Galar needed some sense of normalcy. Something also told her that Leon had been looking forward to tomorrow's match. When they arrive in Windin, Ash is met with a crowd, all wishing him good luck in the battle. Some even mention how they hail from Alola, and knew their champion would be able to defeat Leon. The large group makes their way to Windin Stadium, and this is where Ash has to split off from them. he takes one last look at everyone who's helped him get this far on his journey, and tells them that he won't let them down. They all give each other a look, and eventually, they all decide to let Ash's mother be the one to speak up. Delia gives him a smile that only a mother could, before telling him that he could never let them down. They're already very proud of the trainer he's become. The 10-year-old boy smiles, before holding up a V for victory. With that, he's off. The large group takes their seats, only for them to be met with Cynthia. When asked what she's doing here, she states how she came to find Iris. The Master's 8 have all been given box seats to watch the battle from, and so she wanted to extend the offer to her. Iris thinks for a moment, before deciding against it. She wants to watch the battle with everyone here instead. Cynthia smiles with understanding, saying she's sure Alon would have been the same. Before Leon and Ash are allowed to step onto the pitch, the announcer makes his opening statement. He thanks everyone for coming to watch the battle in person, and for tuning in at home. This tournament has been unlike any the World Championships has ever seen. The past few weeks have been historical for the Galar region, both in good ways and in bad. However, now it was time to bring the season of the World Championships to a close. Inside the locker rooms, Hop stands near his brother. He can hear the cheers of the crowd outside. He tells his brother that everyone's waiting for him. However, Leon is just sitting there, looking completely shocked. Hop asks if he's doing alright, and Leon chuckles. He apologizes, saying that he's just taking everything in right now. This was the battle he'd been waiting for. But the past few days have honestly been unreal to him. Hop says that it should be fine now, though, because he's going to win like he always does, right? Leon stands up, before telling his little brother that he'll give the world a show to remember. Hop smiles, saying that he and Sonia will be cheering for him. As Hop rushes off to get to his seats, Leon becomes a little more somber, and says that he knows, because Hop always will. On one side of the battlefield, their reigning world champion, the undefeated champion hailing from Galar. He's faced opponent after opponent, taking on hundreds of opponents just to make it where he is today. He's been the driving force that caused Galar's strength, and drove thousands to participate in this year's World Championships. Their unbeatable champion, Leon. The champion's challenger this time was the new rising star from the small town of Pallet. Someone who many didn't know at first, but has now become a household name. A boy who's traveled far and wide, facing any challenge that came his way with his trusted partner by his side. Winner of the Orange League. Collector of all 7 of Kanto's frontier symbols. And the first ever champion of the Alola League. He is their hero, who stood tall in order to end the darkest day. everyone, please welcome Ash Ketchum to the battlefield. The two champions take to the grassy field. The crowd roars, chanting their names. Leon looks around, taking it all in. He mentions how these matches are always sold out, and yet he's never seen a crowd this wild. Though, it seemed word had spread about what Ash did for them. Ash was a true hero, who fought alongside the legendary Pokemon to save their future. He couldn't think of a better opponent to face in the finals. Ash is a little taken aback by Leon's words. He looks out into the crowd, seeing his friends and family cheering for him. He even sees the former Team Rocket trio cheering him on. They all seem to agree with Leon, though he never intended to become a hero. The cheers of friends, family, and other spectators in the stands make Ash feel a little nostalgic. He had come a long way since he first left Pallet Town. He had met so many people and made so many friends. He wondered if some of the other people he had met were watching him. If so, then he couldn't let them down. He and his Pokemon were going to give it everything they had. The referee begins to make the usual statements of rules. The battle would be a full 6-on-6, with no time limit or switch restrictions for either party. He begins to state that both parties will only be able to use one of either Mega Evolution, Z-moves, or Dynamax. But Leon interrupts him, stating that he wants to see Ash at his full power. He urges the allowance of Ash to use all three in this battle. The referee tries to argue that this is highly unorthodox, but then he notices the crowd. Every single patron within the stadium agrees with Leon. They want to see Ash go all out. The only person who is uncertain about this is Sonia. She's unsure whether or not this is a good idea. They don't know how that type of energy will respond with Galar particles, not to mention the influx of Galar particles. While she isn't sure anything negative will happen, the recent events make her concerned nonetheless. However, the call is up to the referee and Ash. Ash doesn't seem opposed to it, so the referee ultimately decides to allow it this time. Some are unsure why Leon wants this, though. Leon calls out to Ash again, exclaiming how now that he's seen Ash's strength as the greatest of challengers, that crushing him into the dirt will show everyone just how strong their champion truly is. So come on, Ash. Let's make this a battle that'll go down in history. No. One that'll change the world forever. Ash agrees to this, and joins Leon in yelling, "Let's have a champion time!" With the call of the referee, Ash and Leon send out their first Pokemon, being their very first partners. The crowd roars with excitement, not expecting to see Charizard appear this early. Leon chuckles, mentioning how one of the jobs of a champion is to get the crowd fired up, so giving them a preview of what's to come should do the trick. Ash calls for his first attack, missing Leon's statement of how they can't skip to the climax just yet. As Pikachu fires a Thunderbolt, Leon makes a switch to Aegislash, who's able to guard the attack with his shield. The electric attack seems to do little damage to Leon's Sword and Shield. Aegislash then follows up with a powerful Shadow Sneak, switching into its blade form in the process. Ash decides to follow Leon's lead then, and calls Pikachu back, saving his partner for a later time. Wanting to gain the advantage, Ash sends out his own Colosseum Pokemon. Once Greninja takes the field, the two Pokemon rush into battle. They clash with Night Slash in close combat, blades ringing throughout the stadium. Ash tries to throw Leon off with a double-team Water Shuriken combo, but much to the surprise of Ash, Aegislash switches to Shield form, taking the hits with ease. Then, without changing forms, it fires off a Flash Cannon, destroying the double-team clones. Greninja drops back down to the ground, only for Aegislash to change forms and rush in for a Shadow Sneak once again. Greninja tries to counterattack with Aerial Ace, but Aegislash is just fast enough to change to Shield form. Leon smirks, before revealing that he and Aegislash changed to be able to change stances, without the need for King's Shield. Leon then surprises the audience by calling for Aegislash to use Shadow Ball on his shield. When in blade form, using its ribbon-like arms, Aegislash forms a Shadow Ball attack around the shield. Once the spectral energy is charged, Aegislash throws its shield. Ash calls for Greninja to use Double Team, but seemingly just before the Ninja Frog can attack, Leon has Aegislash fire off Flash Cannon, propelling the shield even faster, causing it to strike Greninja directly in the mouth. The shield flies back, allowing Aegislash to catch it. Leon smirks, but then notices a shadow cast down upon Aegislash. In the air is Greninja, who readies an aerial ace in order to strike from above. Somehow, it seemed Greninja was able to get off a double team just in time. Not wanting to take the hit, Leon has Aegislash switch to shield form, only for him to notice another clone appear behind Aegislash, readying a Night Slash. He thinks quickly, and has Aegislash switch to blade form just when both attacks are about to land. Aerial Ace is still blocked by the shield, while Aegislash spins to counter the other clone with close combat. Upon contact, both clones disappear in a puff of smoke. That's when Leon realizes the real Greninja is already recovering from the Shadow Shield, and is preparing an attack. Combining two shurikens into one larger shuriken, Greninja fires. Leon pulls out another Pokeball, swapping Aegislash for Seismitoad. The Water Shuriken hits the Vibration Pokemon, only for it to be absorbed into the Toad's skin. Ash curses himself, as he should have expected the water absorbability. Still, he's been able to force Leon to switch multiple times now. He just has to keep up the pressure, so Ash swaps as well, bringing in Rillaboom. As the grassy terrain forms, Ash calls for Grassy Glide. Rillaboom zips around the battlefield, but just before the attack lands, Leon calls for Scald. Seismitoad tilts its head back, before firing the scalding water up into the air. The water falls down around it, forming a barrier which blocks Rillaboom's attack. The scalding water continues to pour down, forcing Rillaboom to retreat. Unfortunately, the scalding water not only takes up a defense, but it forms whips which begin to rotate in a clockwise motion in order to batter the drummer Pokemon. Ash knows this strategy all too well, and Leon has to ultimately thank him. After all, Leon only adapted this strategy due to seeing Ash utilize it. While the waters are not very effective against Rillaboom, the consistency of the waters bashing against him makes it difficult to counter. Ash tries to have Rillaboom utilize Grassy Glide and Acrobatics in order to escape, but the spinning of the Scald makes it difficult to counteract. Ash is left with no other choice. He manages to call back Rillaboom in order to Gigantamax the Grass Monkey. With a loud beat of the drum, Rillaboom begins by using Max Airstream to dispel the counter shield. The boiling hot water is blown away, forming nothing more than vapor. Seismitoad fights against the winds, only moving backwards a few inches. As the stream of air dies down, Leon calls for Toxic. Seismitoad begins to reel back, as if getting ready to regurgitate the attack. However, Rillaboom is faster. At Ash's command, Rillaboom begins a G-Max drum solo, with just as much heart and power as when the gorilla faced Mewtwo in the semi-finals. Leon commands that Seismitoad charge into the fray, but it seems to be futile. As Seismitoad rushes forward, massive roots break through the ground of the battlefield. The bulky Toad is surprisingly able to hold off for a while, but is unable to avoid for long. A small grouping of roots snake their way around Seismitoad's body, constricting around the Vibration Pokemon as they begin to raise Seismitoad up into the air. Just when the roots bring Seismitoad eye level with the Gigantamax Pokemon, Leon commands for Seismitoad to fire. In a single move, Seismitoad is able to disgorge blobs of dark purple poison onto the Galarian monkey. As a mark of purple shows itself on Rillaboom's face, the roots of G-Max Drum Solo force Seismitoad down to the ground. When they dissipate, the Vibration Pokemon is shown to be unconscious. The grassy terrain dissipates, getting Leon to smile. He then notes that if you want to cut down a tree, you use an axe. So Haxorus is brought out to face Rillaboom. He reverts to normal size, clutching his face. When the gorilla moves his hand away, his fury is clear for the entire world to see. Rillaboom and Ash don't want to give in, and so Ash calls for an acrobatics. Rillaboom dashes around the battlefield. Thanks to Max Airstream, the drummer's speed is almost blinding to the naked eye. Leon's eyes dart back and forth as he watches Rillaboom's movements. While the Grass Monkey might be fast, Seismitoad's Toxic has put Ash's Galarian Pokemon on a timer. So the question is, does he simply wait for Ash to make the first move? Or does he act? Leon closes his eyes, as Haxorus does the same. The two focus and get into sync. Leon exclaims that his Haxorus, whose axe had been honed by hundreds of battles, will not fail here. Draconic energy whips around Haxorus, as it begins to sway in a rhythmic way. The two wait patiently, and just when the right moment appears, the two's eyes snap back open with a call for Haxorus to use Iron Head. Just as Rillaboom strikes with an acrobatic kick, Haxorus' head becomes as hard as the strongest metal. The two clash, and Haxorus' boosted attack power pushes through. Rillaboom drops back down, before striking with high horsepower, making use of all the time it had spent in the hands of the ruthless ground-type master. Haxorus is able to counter, and so the two become locked blow for blow as they exchange hit after hit. Grassy glides, acrobatics, and high horsepowers all lock with Iron Head and Dragon Claw. Ash and Rillaboom try to find an open, but Haxorus is just keeping itself closed off. Eventually, Rillaboom leaps back and begins a drum beating, but it's clear that the monkey is getting exhausted from the ever-increasing toxic damage. As the roots attempt to keep Haxorus at bay, Leon has the Dragon Charge. With powerful yet agile movements, Haxorus rushes forward. Its axe grind against the roots, tearing through them. Ash knows he has to act fast. Leaping forward, Rillaboom rushes to meet Haxorus. The two strike with one final clash of Grassy Glide and Dragon Claw. Everything falls quiet in tense anticipation. Both Pokemon stand, huffing with exhaustion from the intense battle. Haxorus then groans, before grabbing its arm, to which Rillaboom looks back with a smile. He gives a very showman-like rat-a-tat-tat with his drumsticks against the ground, only for his eyes to then glaze over. Rillaboom falls forward, completely unconscious. The crowd is stunned. Could it be? Rillaboom, the one to defeat Giovanni's two strongest Pokemon, was defeated? An uproar fills the stadium as cheers for Leon and Haxorus. In the stands, Silent makes a notion that Leon's Haxorus may even be stronger than Iris's own. This comment does get him chewed out by Univa's champion, though. Ash recalls Rillaboom, thanking him for all the hard work. Leon then makes the direct declaration that this battle is dedicated to his Seismitoad. Ash smiles, once again being reminded of how full battles work. What was important was that he rack up damage against his opponent, and achieve his victory as a team. Leon may have taken down Rillaboom, but this fight was just beginning. The next Pokemon Ash brings out is Lucario. The Aura Pokemon looks back, and the two give each other a nod. Ash wastes no time Mega Evolving the Pokemon. Filled with determination to defeat Haxorus, Lucario releases a burst of wind-like aura, before firing off an Aura Sphere. Leon calls for Dragon Claw in order for Haxorus to stop the attack from landing, but it was merely a distraction. By the time the Aura Sphere has split off, breaking off and exploding into different areas of the battlefield, Lucario has already made his way up to Haxorus. Before Haxorus can counterattack, the Mega Evolved Pokemon strikes with a powerful Blaze Kick across the jaw. Lucario then follows up with a 1-2 Meteor Mash blow to Haxorus' body. With the boosted speed from Dragon Dance, Haxorus begins to get back into the pace of the fight, managing to counter Meteor Mash with Dragon Claw. The two strike over and over again, equally attempting to find each other's blind spots, while simultaneously still remaining in a deadlock. No matter how much they move to attack differently, the two end up clashing with their attacks. Eventually, the two lock their Meteor Mash and Dragon Claw attacks together, and Lucario leaps up, flipping to strike with Blaze Kick. But Haxorus counters with Iron Head, resulting in the attack doing nothing to the Axe Jaw Pokemon. Leon then calls for one move he hadn't revealed yet: Earthquake. As soon as Lucario's feet touch the ground, the earth begins to shake beneath him. Multiple parts of the battlefield open up. Ash yells for Lucario to get away, but it's already too late. Leon has Haxorus use its own body weight to keep Lucario to the ground. While it causes harm to Haxorus as well, it is nothing compared to Lucario. When the earthquake dies down, Haxorus gets back up. There's a stillness in the air as people wait. Slowly, Lucario gets back to his feet. Flames flare around Lucario's legs. But then he stops. The Aura Pokemon turns around and locks eyes with his trainer. All Ash does is put a fist to his chest. A movement which confuses the Kalos gang, as he normally did that in reference to Greninja. Lucario understands it, though. He nods, before turning back to Haxorus. The Aura Pokemon closes his eyes. He focuses himself, and lets his bond with his trainer and his aura take hold. Haxorus whips its tail around impatiently. It is about to attack, but Leon stops it. While it may seem strange, Leon wants his opponent to get stronger. That way, this final battle will be a real challenge to him. Aura washes over Lucario's body. Without opening his eyes, the Jackal grins in a way that is almost identical to how his trainer would. He then taunts his opponent, goading the dragon into attacking. Haxorus looks back, and this time, his trainer allows it. Haxorus attempts to strike with Dragon Claw, only for Lucario to disappear. Before Haxorus can understand what's going on, Lucario appears to the right of the dragon, striking with Blaze Kick. Haxorus staggers back, only for Lucario to suddenly be behind the dragon. He Blaze Kicks again, causing Haxorus to lose balance and give a staggered fall forward. The crowd is unable to comprehend this. Haxorus' Dragon Dance should mean it's faster, and yet Lucario was moving in the blink of an eye. Clement understands it, though, as these movements are like those of a certain someone. While it was true that Lucario wasn't faster than Haxorus, it didn't seem to be a matter of speed, but stealth. Perhaps a specific cadence in Lucario's movements made it unable to be seen. Or maybe Lucario was dispelling its aura at the moment of this step, using it as a distraction from where it was moving in order to make it seem like it disappeared. Either way, this stealthier way of movement was a good way to close the gap between the two combatants. Haxorus gets back up with eyes of draconic fury. This heightens when it sees Lucario bouncing up and down, rotating its arms loosely, as if the Mega Evolution were just warming up. This is the final straw for the dragon, as it charges forward without listening to Leon. It swings an Axe Blade boosted by Iron Head, only for Lucario to crouch, easily evading the hit before sucker punching the dragon with Meteor Mash. Ash smiles, seeing how Haxorus was making the same mistakes Lucario did when put in this situation. However, this was a World Champions Pokemon. Something told him that things wouldn't stay like this for long. Haxorus was about to make another move, but Leon finally managed to stop him. He makes the valid point that trying to attack head-on wasn't going to work. Lucario's aura abilities allowed it to sense Haxorus' movements. Not to mention that an axe attack like the previous one would be something Lucario had dealt with before, given one of the Jackal's mentors. Ash chuckles with a bit of awkwardness, surprised by how much Leon really knew about his Pokemon. Still, it wasn't just Lucario's mentors who were watching. Lucario's rival, and the Pokemon that looked up to the Aura Pokemon. They were all watching too. With that being the case, why would Lucario even consider losing? Leon laughs a bit, seeing Ash's point. Still, just because Lucario could handle some of Haxorus' moves, didn't mean every option had been taken away. Lucario may be able to avoid a direct hit, especially after getting used to Haxorus' movements, but not something which would shake the entire battlefield. Ash's eyes grow wide. How could he forget about Haxorus' final attack? Earthquake. As the ground begins to rip apart, Ash quickly has Lucario use Blaze Kick to boost himself into the air. Lucario's legs burn, before it kicks off, leaping upwards. However, Leon has a plan. He calls for Haxorus to use Dragon Claw to kick up some of the ground. Haxorus does as commanded, sending dirt and rocks flying right at Lucario, blinding the Jackal and allowing Haxorus to leap in for another Dragon Claw strike against him. The two Pokemon drop to the ground, just as the earthquake stops. They clash with a few blows of Meteor Mash and Dragon Claw, before Lucario is able to maneuver around the dragon. He manages to strike, but this time, Haxorus takes the hit before batting Lucario to the ground. He unleashes an earthquake, only for Ash to have Lucario get up quickly and jump onto Haxorus. Haxorus begins to thrash as Lucario tries to hold on tight, using Haxorus as just a way to escape the earthquake. He's about to be bucked off, so Ash takes the chance to call for Aura Sphere, hoping it can charge while Lucario is thrown. Lucario understands, but already begins pulsating with Aura right when he lets go. The Aura quickly builds to a point where Lucario isn't even thrown far before firing the attack. It's almost like Lucario forced his Aura Sphere onto Haxorus. Ash then starts to get an idea. As the earthquake stops, Ash calls for Lucario to create a massive Aura Sphere on Haxorus. The crowd is surprised by this. No one's tried a point-blank Aura Sphere. Not in the way Ash was ordered, but it still works. Lucario turns, placing both hands against Haxorus, while building Aura into a sphere. It grows and grows, enveloping both Lucario's hands and Haxorus. No one's ever seen anything like it. From their respective homes, Karina and Riley are watching the battle. Karina is kicking herself for not thinking of that, while Lucario is amazed by the aura output Ash and Lucario have together. Meanwhile, Riley merely smiles, saying it really is a small world if Ash became that Lucario's trainer. Lucario seems impressed with Ash and Lucario as well. Ash calls for Lucario to absorb the aura back into itself, and so despite having Haxorus caught in a loop of pain, the Aura Sphere disappears like a collapsing star. The crowd is left amazed, also witnessing as Ash uses the increased power to have Lucario strike with a powerful Meteor Mash, which forces back Haxorus a few feet. Haxorus recovers, roaring angrily at its opponent. Leon knows he's only got one option, and so calls for Earthquake yet again. Ash then makes a risky play, calling for Lucario to launch himself into the air with Steel Beam. Lucario does as commanded, fighting the recoil as it gets sent flying high into the air. Ash then yells for Lucario to attack. So before the beam stops, Lucario drags it across the ground and up the protective barrier of the stadium until it's angled just right in order to launch Lucario back towards the ground. Leon calls for Haxorus to counter with Iron Head, but it's too late. Lucario strikes a critical blow to Haxorus, before bringing up its other hand and releasing all the pent-up aura energy in a single sphere, one the exact same size as the sphere he originally absorbed into himself. When the attack ends, Haxorus is left with burn marks all over. It lets out a roar as if to say it isn't done yet, but then its body gives out. Haxorus falls, giving Ash the lead, but Lucario is clearly exhausted. As Leon calls back his Axe-Jaw Pokemon, Ash gets ready to call back Lucario as well. However, surprisingly, Lucario moves away from the beam, refusing to simply leave the fight. The two look each other in the eyes, before Ash nods, telling Lucario that if he wants to fight till the very end, then they will. Leon chuckles, figuring he'll have to fight stealth with stealth. So his Pokemon of choice is Dragapult. Immediately, the ghostly dragon lets off a Will-O-Wisp, trying to get the burn against Lucario. Knowing this will only make things more difficult, Lucario acts without Ash making a command, and uses Blaze Kick to take out the ghostly flames. As Lucario is distracted, He manages to get Dragapult to sneak over and quickly strike with a U-turn, pivoting out and allowing Aegislash back onto the field. The sword attacks quickly, striking with close combat and blocking a Meteor Mash from Lucario, before being swapped out for Leon's Dragapult once again. Dragapult goes for another U-turn, but Lucario counters it with Meteor Mash. Despite the clash not resulting in Dragapult's victory, Dragapult still swaps out, this time to Calyrex. The King of Bountiful Harvest appearing on the battlefield gets not only the crowd excited, but no one's more thrilled than Lucario to see this powerful foe. Lucario rushes in, going for a Meteor Mash, but when he strikes, Calyrex disappears, being replaced by a rock. Lucario is then ensnared by seeds planted by the king, before Calyrex disappears. Lucario flares his aura, trying to escape the draining power of the seeds, only for Dragapult to appear and use Will-O-Wisp in order to burn the Mega Evolved Jackal. Dragapult then attacks with Hex, doing major damage while Lucario was already being drained by the burn and the Leech Seed. Lucario tries to move, fighting against the pain and energy draining he was feeling. In the crowd, many wonder why Lucario isn't just allowing himself to be swapped out. Maybe it's out of sheer stubbornness. Maybe Lucario naively assumed he would be able to handle the rest of Leon's team on his own. Though, Silent is able to make the hypothesis that, like Ash, Lucario wasn't wanting to run away from a fight like this. After all, the rest of Leon's team was made up of strong opponents. So Lucario may have wanted to fight until he couldn't anymore. Unfortunately, that's what's gotten Lucario into the situation he was now. As Dragapult continues to bombard Lucario with Hex after Hex, the Mega Evolved Jackal continues to try and free himself. Ash calls out to the Aura Pokemon, encouraging him to keep fighting. A mix of Aura and Flame flash, as Lucario struggles to maintain the energy needed to free itself. The vines of the Leech Seed tighten, trying to keep their grip around the Jackal as it slowly sapped of any and all remaining stamina. Still, Lucario keeps pushing. A single flash of clarity, where the connection between the two prevails. The small flames suddenly rush over Lucario, increasing to a much greater size briefly, as they travel across Lucario's body. Most of the vines met with these flames are burned away, before the flames collide with Lucario's Blaze Kick. While the Leech Seed still has some hold over the Jackal, he's now able to move, displaying as such by flying in with a powerful Blaze Kick, which slams down on Dragapult's head like a hammer. Dragapult uses this against Lucario, though, by taking the momentum and using it to spin itself and strike with another U-turn. Switching out for Aegislash, who pushes Lucario back with Shadow Ball. Lucario slides across the battlefield before grabbing onto the Shadow Ball and infusing his own aura into it. The Shadow Ball turns into an Aura Sphere, which Lucario throws at Aegislash. Leon chuckles, mentioning how fighting-type moves aren't able to hit ghosts, but Ash says that Lucario wasn't aiming for Aegislash specifically. Sure enough, the attack instead hits Aegislash's shield, knocking it far away from the hands of the possessed sword. Aegislash was now unable to go into shield form, but that wasn't going to stop the sword. It flies as fast as it can, trying to get to the shield. Lucario won't allow this though, and so chases Aegislash down at breakneck speeds, in order to strike with a flying Blaze Kick just before the sword can be reunited. Leon decides to switch battle tactics, and so has Aegislash strike with Shadow Sneak. Lucario barely dodges, but the two begin to clash fiercely with Meteor Mash against close combat. Aegislash's defenses are lowered with each attack, while the occasional clash boosts Lucario's attack. Lucario mixes things up at one point by clashing with Aegislash before getting off a spinning Blaze Kick. The audience is shocked by the ferocity of Lucario at this moment. The Jackal is clearly exhausted by all the fighting, yet he keeps going. Even when Aegislash is knocked down, the Jackal manages to rebound instantly. Eventually, the two decide to finish things, as both charge all their steely power into Flash Cannon and Steel Beam. Both attacks push against each other, trying to force the other to collapse in on itself. However, with both giving it everything they have, the two keep going back and forth with each other. Neither wants to give an inch, but there's one thing that Lucario has over Aegislash. His Aura Bond. Not just with Ash, but Cleavor. Darmanitan, Swampert, and Greninja. They all drive Lucario to push beyond his limits in order to obliterate the Flash Cannon and completely envelop Aegislash. As the attacks die down, both Pokemon collapse due to exhaustion. The crowd roars, filling the stadium. As they all cheer, May turns to Brock, asking if Ash's Lucario seems familiar to him. Brock thinks for a moment, before noting that while it does have a pretty different personality and fighting style, when it used Steel Beam, it did remind him of that Lucario they met some time ago, though neither really understand why. Ash and Leon both call back their Pokemon. Ash is still in the lead, but Leon has a look on his face that shows things aren't over just yet. After all, the last 3 Pokemon he has aren't even that badly damaged, if they were even hurt at all. Not to mention that the 3 who remain are absolutely Leon's strongest. Meanwhile, Ash has lost 2 of his heaviest hitters. Both call out their next Pokemon, being Greninja and Dragapult. Like before, Leon has Dragapult use Will-O-Wisp, which Greninja is easily able to evade. This goes according to Leon's plan though, as U-Turn is able to strike, switching Dragapult out for Calyrex.